I was born for this. I was born for this.
Welcome back to another episode of Cork'd Up. I'm Jess Kleinschmidt.
And I'm Rachel Luba. Cheers.
That looks really cool. It's really fun.
Do this literally every time.
I know, every time I'm really...
Also, to my Jew tribe out there, happy 8th night of Hanukkah while Jess is mesmerized by her wine glass and the camera. Happy 8th night of Hanukkah, the last night of Hanukkah, and I have my super cool, look at this, spin rate.
I love that for you.
Shirt. Yes. It's a Team Israel baseball shirt. And I'm big on spin rate. So dreidels, baseballs.
It's great. But every year I get asked by a lot of people, because my last name's Kleinschmidt, if I'm Jewish, and I am not part of the tribe. Not like
but we'll accept you to it for sure.
I know you will. And it's just, but it's like Kleinschmidt, people don't really know. But no, I am not.
Yeah. There's some people in the industry that I've learned that are Jewish that I'm like, really? People are usually surprised that I am too. They're like, I had no idea. I
just assume everybody in the baseball industry is Jewish.
Wait, really? I assume
the opposite. From what I've just covering it for as long as I have, I'm always, it's there. I feel like there's a majority, maybe from the writers' side.
Yeah. Okay.
They're either Jewish and love Bruce Springsteen. Sometimes both. I love Bruce Springsteen.
I learned Passon was Jewish like yesterday.
I did not know that, but I am not surprised.
Yeah. It's kind of how I feel. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm never surprised, but people are always surprised at me. They're like, wait, I didn't know you were Jewish. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
It's fun and everything. So.
And I really loved Trevor participating in all of that too. That was wonderful.
Yeah. He was in town. I was like, you know what? You're going to learn about, he has some Jewish blood from his dad's side. So I taught him. He was big on the dreidel. He was much better at it than me. I was a little frustrated by that, but
I get that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like a competition, and I respect that. What's our wine word, Mama?
It is social media.
Yeah, so we're about to get hammered. And we were thinking the funniest part about this wine word is I often forget about it, but that's the best part, right? Like by the time we're ass deep in a conversation, it's like, oh, there's a wine word. We're just chilling. I love it. But I think social media is a great one because we have a lot to talk about with social media today. So to start things off, before we get into it, we'll do a breakdown of what we're doing. We have a very, very cool thing to talk about. Rachel was in Complex magazine talking about how being a woman in the industry is okay. And we're going to go into depth about that. We're going to go off about how much of a bullshit baseball social media CBS Sports bracket Rachel and I were involved in.
We're not bitter at all though.
Not bitter, but we're bitter enough to
we're bitter. Like John Boy, I like you a little less after this. If you're listening,
I have some bros at CBS Sports, or they used to be. I don't know. And then we're gonna go with the Rule 5 draft, because I tweeted out that after all these years of covering it, there's still some questions that I have, and I know what it means, but we'll go into detail about the questions that I have. So let's get started. And this is a really big one, to the point where Rach and I were back and forth for 2 days straight, sending voice messages about these.
I'm big on voice memos now. It's so much easier.
It's easier, and I feel like it's more it keeps you and I more connected. And I do that with Melanie and Danny too. We're queens of that. And so I swear by that. You can keep them in just reminders, especially when you say an uplifting one. They're always good. And they're great for court too, in case I have to get anybody in trouble. But you were in Complex magazine, and it's something that we're very passionate about. And I remember, because when I went for my somewhat audition to do this with you to the Momentum House, one of the first things we talked about was embracing being feminine in a male dominated industry. And that has to do with how we dress, how we present ourselves. And you and I related where at the very beginning, you wanted to change your name so it was more gender fluid. I was often dressing myself down to make sure I didn't come off as too honestly slutty in the clubhouse, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And the one thing I love about myself is my style. I love the way I dress, and I would hate to have to dumb that down. So we'll get started with that. But Rach, let's talk about this, the magazine spot, but just how important it is for people to know, like, we get a lot of shit on social media. We get a lot of crap, but I feel like like between you and I, we've been very lucky. We've got a lot of praise too, to kind of show women like it's okay to be ourselves. So tell me a little bit more about what you wanted to talk about and how it's okay to be who you are as a woman in this industry.
Yeah, well, that was like, that was like one of the big things we talked about initially. And I think is kind of what we bonded over was this idea that we didn't want to apologize, because we went through a phase where it was like we felt like we could only be this one mold, right, to fit in the industry. Like, okay, women are gonna be allowed in the industry now, but you got to fit this one mold, like, and it's got to be very like masculine in a way.
Yeah.
And so I think like what you and I kind of talked about with that was how important it was to, make it so, at least try to make it so that, all types of girls feel, whoever they are, inside, they feel like they're welcome in the industry and can be themselves. Like they don't need to, if you are, if you tend to be more tomboy, or, you're whatever it is, or you love to wear makeup and lipstick and heels and all that, like it doesn't matter, that both sides should be welcome in the industry, and it shouldn't have any reflection on your ability to do your job. And I think that's kind of the biggest part of it. And so sometimes, I definitely do go to the extreme of my side, and like, me pretty well. I'm very tomboy in a lot of ways, and I'm not super, girly and all this stuff, but I try, because I realize that there's a kind of this image of certain types of girls that people like are quick to reject in the industry, and it tends to be the very girly, the very, feminine,
voluptuous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I figured, you know what, like I love that part. Like there is a side of me that is like that. Growing up, I wasn't like that at all, but I do like this part, and I should be happy about it and proud to be feminine. And so I try to play that up to help other girls who are, like that's more like them. And I want them to look and say, you know what, like I see there's like some tomboy girls, in the industry, but there's also some, girls that are very girly, and I can relate to that. And so, there's been like, an article or two recently kind of talking about that, because I think people do look at, especially my Instagram, and they're like, whoa, that's very different. But and while people
different, but we're not going to say different, like that's like the nice way of putting it, but yes,
yeah, that's the nice way. But people like publicly, the way they talk about it, it's very controversial, right? And sometimes it seems like, what are you doing, Rachel? And you and I talk about this a lot. We both like the reason that like it would be so much easier for me to just not use social media like that, and not use Instagram. Think about how much less shit I would get publicly from people, right? But I think the reason you and I kind of stick to this, and we're so kind of committed to, you know what, no, like I'm going to be okay doing this, because of a lot of the feedback we get in our DMs, etc., from younger girls who are like, thank you. Like, thank you for making me feel like I don't have to be anyone I'm not. And I get it from some girls who aren't girly at all, but they're like, I just feel like you're making it okay to be any type of girl you want in the industry. Like, and you're trying to distinguish that your ability to do your job should have no bearing on what type of girl you want to be. And so, we talk about how, when publicly people will criticize what we do, but, we also, you and I will share like, via texting, just screenshots a lot of times of a lot of these girls who just like say thank you, or fathers who reach out and like, thank you for making me feel like, my daughter can be herself, and she's, as long as she can do the job,
Yeah.
then that's all that matters.
Right.
And you should 100% be, critiqued on your ability to do your job. I don't care if you're male or female, but your gender should not have any influence on your ability to do your job.
I absolutely agree. And if you think about it, just because the overall picture is we want you to embrace who you are as not just a woman, but whatever you identify
Whatever
as.
you are.
Yeah. And I noticed the moment I woke up one day and I was like, okay, I need to stop being like, and I say these two girls all the time, Katie and Laura, because I wanted to be like them when I grew up, my friends back in high school. I couldn't be them. They were doing a great job being them. But once I was Jess, my career skyrocketed. And that was just because I went on TV one day when I would going on these things and I was like, no, you know what? I'm sorry. I can't keep like with this vanilla stuff that you're talking about. That's not what happened. This is not what he said. This is not what went down. And people didn't get like on my ass for it. They're like, well, okay, there you go. Like I just had an A's review show and Dallas wasn't on it. So I had to kind of be the Dallas and talk like myself and say, Sean Murphy had some daddy power at the plate this year because he did. And I said it and like, I didn't feel bad about it because I remembered, oh, wait, that my executive producer is like, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. And when I have like the A's B, we have Susan Slusser, who does a great job being herself. And the reason why her and I are so close is because I don't try to be like her and I embrace who I am. And she's kind of a scary bitch, let's be honest. And I don't mean to, she knows that. She knows
that, but
people are scared shitless of her and she embraces it. That's the thing too. I'm not trying to step on her toes. She knows what she's doing. I'm going to stay in my lane.
But you know why you guys are both so successful? It's not like you guys have very different personas and images online, everything. And like I was talking to Susan when she interviewed me for the article she did, and we were talking about, you and all that. You guys are very, very different. Yeah. But why do you guys why are you successful? Why do you both have respect? It's not because you've conformed to a mold. Yeah. It's simply because you both just, you are yourselves and you know your shit. Mm-hmm. And again, like you and I always come back to this. All that matters is that you know your shit. And if you're a female and you don't know your shit, that's on you and you don't belong in the industry. But if you know your shit, you be whoever you want to be.
And here's the thing, even if you don't be scared to ask the questions.
Well, of course. Yeah. You got to learn. You got to start somewhere.
Too. And like, even so, like, we're going to talk about the Rule 5 later. And that's when I went online and I was like, I remember just when I started out, like, you have so many questions, but then I remember more than half of my job is asking questions. You have to. I wouldn't have the co-hosting with you. I wouldn't have Bach if I didn't ask questions. It's all part of it. But that's why you do it, right? And it's funny that you talked about Susan because like even like we both are on the same like beat, but like the reason why we like it's hard to explain, but it's easy to explain just because like we both know our shit. You're right about that, but she also knows that I'm being myself through it. Like I'm not being opposite Susan. Yeah. To do whatever, right? And that's kind of how it is. And that's what I love about my approach is like, okay, well, I'm just going to do what I need to do. And even if I like fuck up, it's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to go to bed knowing that I tried. And when it comes to like, and weirdly enough, I know we talk about this a lot, is just how we dress and present ourselves. That's the one thing I was so scared about in the beginning. I just remember like making sure my chest isn't showing, making sure my legs aren't showing too much, this and that, and this and that. And I had to kind of push myself to the limit with that without looking like an asshole because like, I mean, you know how I dress, like I take so much pride in like trying to dress well. And that's just because I love fashion. I love my style. And it's the one thing I will not feel bad about, but I don't want to look stupid. I do change things up if we're going to the club, which I don't go to a club, but if we were to go to a club compared to the bar, compared to a clubhouse, compared to a game, I often think about those things, and it always has to do with like, I want to be myself, but I do keep in mind, like I'm representing Momentum, I'm representing NBC Sports, I'm representing my mother, like those types of things. So you keep that in the back of their mind, but I'm not going to be like, okay, I have to be on my every word. The stuff I've talked to you about, like I'm always overthinking, like, am I going to offend somebody? And there's certain ways to do that without taking away who you are. You do respect people. And like, I tell you all the time, like, I wish I could go off a little bit more on social media, but I'm kind of glad NBC holds me back a little bit.
Yeah, there's some lines with it.
Yeah.
And I think, look, like some people will probably be appalled if I told them like, oh, that's, how I dress. It's like how I dress normally, or, if I'm going out is probably more revealing
Yeah.
than how like some of the things I wear on social media. And they would be like, oh my God, you basically got naked. But like, still, I think, I guess sometimes, yeah, I'd go over the top with it, but it's like I'm trying to hammer a point home, and maybe I have a little more freedom to do that than you, just
Right.
because I'm not employed by, a big company. I'm self-employed,
Yeah.
but my point, I'm trying to, I don't usually get up there and wear a bikini and talk baseball, but I try to put a mix of both in there, because like to say, look, this is the baseball Rachel. She knows her shit, and you can't deny that. And then this is also the girly Rachel. And this is the Rachel that's proud of being feminine. This is the Rachel that had a damn eating disorder as a gymnast and struggled with that and struggled with loving her body. Like this is, and now she's at a place where she's happy. And like, this is that Rachel too. Like, I want you to see the full thing and just see that they're mutually exclusive. Like my femininity, my lack of femininity, whatever it is, has no bearing on my knowledge of the game and my ability to do my job.
Right. And I feel like that's important, because even think about it this way, like if I'm not myself, and I know you're the same way, if we're not ourselves, I can't be at the top of my game. So of course I'm going to struggle. And that means like, if I'm told to wear a certain thing on TV, which luckily I haven't been told yet, I've been good about it. That's been good. And I think NBC is actually a little more lax. Like I could actually go on TV in jeans and they wouldn't be as upset about it. But if I don't feel sexy and I don't feel like I look like Jess, like I love the way I dress and I go on TV, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to be like thinking about, well, they made me wear this potato sack, so naturally I'm not going to be myself. And I actually will look at some certain things. And I remember one time they made me wear this ugly My Team's jacket, and I had to talk about the women in baseball, like these amazing women in baseball. And I struggled because I felt like I looked like shit. And I know that sounds stupid. It was because, I wasn't dressed like myself. And that's what it was.
Right.
It was my first time on TV in like, I struggled.
So, I mean, but I think it's just like my biggest thing with all of this is that the second, this is what I want to, again, I keep saying this, but I want to make them mutually exclusive. I hate that everything I'm doing in this industry somehow always gets tied back to people critiquing my image and how I look and all of these things. And I understand it's because we're still not in a place in society where, my image and knowing baseball is like completely accepted.
But if you looked plain, babe, nobody would say.
Right. But here's like the point I'm like trying to hammer home with this is that like the second you start, like when I'm talking about baseball or, just when you're looking at my presence in the industry and you start analyzing my look, like how I dress, all of these things, you're now just like completely not giving me any credit for my baseball knowledge, which is assuming you're, critiquing me from, my standpoint in the baseball industry. That's all that should matter is my knowledge of the game and my ability to do my job. But the second you start talking about, their like my looks, my, just Instagram posts, things like that, you're not like, you're asking me to fit into some mold that somebody else created because it's not who I want to be. And my ability to do my job, like all I want to hear is you critique me on that. Critique me on my ability to represent a player, critique me on my ability to negotiate a contract. But if you want to talk, if you're a baseball person or whatever, and or just a fan or whatever, like that's what you should be looking at. Now, if you're just a guy who's trying to look to go on a date with someone, go for it. Tell me all about how you like, or how you love or don't like my look. Or, what I post on, on Instagram sometimes. That's fine. But if we're looking at it through the lens of baseball, you should be critiquing me on on my job, my ability to do my job, negotiate, like represent all like agent related things, right? And so that's kind of where I come back to every time with this. And but look, I think you and I both have we felt encouraged by how many younger girls or even fathers behind the scenes come to us and tell us like they're grateful that we're trying to change this stereotype, that this mold you have to fit into. And again, it's not saying that we think every girl should be like this, but every type of girl should be accepted.
Yeah, I actually just got one because I did an Instagram live because I was like bored waiting to record this, and somebody said, as I was saying, but and this guy is actually, he's the head coach of a baseball team, former player, Coach Erasmo Ramirez, former LB pitcher. So he said, as I was saying before you cut the IG live off, women like you and those others I mentioned are great role models for 3 young girls. So he's got 3 daughters. Being a former MLB pitcher, my daughters absolutely love watching baseball, and they get excited when they hear you, Luba, Alana Rizzo, and many other knowledgeable ladies talking about the game. Thank you. And here's the thing. We talked about this. We should actually talk about this too. When I think it was Yvonne who went off and saying like the players are allies as well. Like that needs to be highlighted because we're in front of them. You're representing them. I'm always, working with them and stuff like that. Like 3 guys.
Players are our biggest supporters.
Players allies. And and I feel like they're finally admitting like that they have our backs, like in the last few years, and I don't think they never did, but I think they were like nervous too. And I feel like now they're just like, yeah, like, I had.
Yeah, so many players I know like that obviously I represent, and just other ones that will tell me, they're like, look, I love what you're doing. Like it's not the people that are the most critical are like the fans who are not, or like the non-athletes.
Have any of them ever been like, you're good for a girl?
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah.
They don't say that shit. Because that's the one thing I've always hated is, oh, you're good for a girl. And, I've been dealing with that since I was 8 years old, since I played baseball, and I don't want that. I want to be just fucking good. And what's that quote that I sent you the other day when you were getting a little pissed off at people on social media? Cause we go through those weird things which is stupid. Cause I know you and I are very strong, but sometimes
things bother us.
Tell me to get off social media. I tell you, but the people that are talking shit are never the ones that are doing better than us.
Oh no, you never it's funny because I remember when I first was going through, like my social media was starting to blow up a little bit during spring training, and the most like just knowledge, like the best piece of advice that was given to me at that point came from Tanner Carson. He's big on like Instagram, raised in baseball, adore him. I think he's 12 now. He's like a 12-year-old boy. Yeah. And I said to him, because actually Bauer was talking to him about how he's like, the baseball world seems to be the most like critical, just in terms of like fans on social media. They're really mean. There's trolls. Because like gymnastics isn't really on social media like that, not on Twitter, but baseball is very much. Same with softball. And he was like, Tanner, tell Rachel, because you've been doing this for a while. He's got, I don't know, probably 150,000 followers or something on Instagram. And he does a great job. He's wise beyond his years. But I was like, okay, Trevor was like, how do you deal with all the mean kids? Because kids say mean things.
Of course.
And he's a huge target because he's a kid himself. And he was like, and Trevor was like, tell Rachel. I'm like, yeah, honestly, tell me, what's your secret? And he said, I just always remind myself that that you never take shots at those below you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how are you only 12? But it's true. He's so right, because think about it in your life. When you ever think something kind of critical and maybe not super nice about somebody, they're always doing a little better than you, right? Mm-hmm. That's why do you ever look at someone below you and be like, and be super critical and mean? No, you try to lift them up, right? But people above you, you only try to tear down people above you. Yeah. And so anyone who's saying mean things, you just look at it and you're like, you know what? That's obviously coming from a place of envy, jealousy, what have you.
Yeah.
or it's self insecurity.
It's very, and we've done, I mean, I've dealt with personal relationships like that. Everybody who's like come at me with like weird things, I'm like, I literally don't do that. That's a you problem.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the stuff, like, and I told you about that before, like that one, there was one guy who came at me on social media out of nowhere. And it turns out his mom had recently died and he was just struggling and I was his target. And I'm not saying it's all the same, but it's nice to know that like social media, there's like so many things involved. However, the end of the day, we want to remind people that as shitty of the things that like are thrown at us, like Rachel and I are constantly sent amazing things, not just about this podcast, but like Rachel's job individually, my job individually, and like what we've done, because we've been through some shit, dude. And so like it's really cool to like have
that people are like that. It's the only reason I think like we kind of keep going. And I try to tell everyone who says something nice, like something like that to me, I'm like, you know what? You're the reason you like that I keep doing it, right? Because I know whether everyone publicly knows it or not, like we're making a difference and we're making other girls feel or other guys feel more comfortable in their skin and to just follow their passion regardless of who they might be, you know, as a person.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, what's cool about, you know, what I like social media and putting yourself out there. It makes it worth it. And so I think also just telling everyone who has reached out to us, like, you know, we can't always get back to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's with our jobs, it can be difficult, but like we see it and it just letting us know, I mean, means the world to us. Because again, it's what keeps us sane when we want to just like bang our head against a wall from all the, you know, trolls out there.
Yeah, especially because like the one thing I've noticed over the last like 6 months is like my Instagram is just a highlight reel. And I know Rachel's seen it before. Like sometimes she needs to be my cheerleader and be like, Jess, you're fine. You're doing everything right. Because a lot of times you only remember the negative things, right? But we do see all the positive things and like we're so appreciative. And that's why we continue to make these things. And sometimes I need to be Rachel's cheerleader without saying cheerleader because I know how you feel about those, but you know what I mean? Like you're superwoman, you're a unicorn, whatever it is. Yeah, like because we need that too. Because I'm glad to know that Rachel struggles sometimes because I look at her as like the best thing in the world, and to know that she struggles helps me sometimes, right? So it's like
vice versa.
Yeah, so it's like, whew, all right.
We like you and I both, and I think people ask me too, they're like, how do you just like not care and it doesn't bother you and like some of the things you whatever deal with? I'm like, oh no, I've cried before. I have called Jess, I've called people like this is so not worth it. I've, you know, like I break down, I get insecure. I see one thing and you're like, Rachel, it's a troll. Who cares? I'm like, no, it bothers me. And like,
but then 2 days later, I'm coming at you and being like, Rachel, what the hell? And then it's the same thing. And it's
right. It's like, we know that our social media can make us seem really tough and that we have really thick skin or, you know, that stuff is perfect. But look, like, you know, it might seem like I'm obsessed with my body.
Yeah.
I've been anorexic. I've been in a hospital before because of that. I have dealt with looking at myself in the mirror and seeing something very different. Like I have struggled with my body and how it's looked. No matter, I don't care what anyone else thinks of it right now. I have struggled with it as a gymnast. And just learning to love what I like my body. And I have struggled with social media, like whatever it is. So we all deal with this shit. I think Jess and I are trying to, and I think I can speak for both of us when I say like, we're trying to put stuff out there that's positive and that helps girls, but that doesn't mean that like everything, like that we have the thickest skin in the world, that nothing bothers us and that we don't care, because we're humans. Like we have faults, we have flaws, we suck at things, and like, we mess up too. And but we're just
all the time. And I think and we literally, and the reason why it's funny and the reason why I'm smiling, kind of laughing, is that literally Rachel and I had these come to Jesus moments this week. And same thing, I always talk about I love being single, but I've been in abusive relationships before. Yeah. And I have my own body issues. I'm on TV and it fucking scares me half of the time. And I walk through life, I'm like, oh, and that's when I'm on the opposite end of people on when I'm a guest on a podcast, they're like, oh, you handle trolls well. I'm like, I don't though. Yeah, they really fuck with me. And they'll bring my personal life into it. They'll talk about my father who passed away. And I'm like, so those things, I'm glad that we can kind of put that out there, because it's we go through our shit too. So that was beautifully done, Rach. I mean, it's not easy, but yeah, but maybe we should shift gears, because let's try to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk baseball.
We're going to talk baseball. I said lighten the mood, but also we're kind of pissed off. So
this is
I'm putting my
segue from social media to baseball. It's the in between.
Yes. So this week, so I participated in last year. Danny Vietti, he's actually literally a legitimate gem. He's from the Sacramento area. He's from here. Of CBS Sports, pushes out a baseball social media bracket every year. I did it last year.
I didn't know they did it, because I joined social media in November of last year with
we're not going to bring up the fact that I think you've surpassed me on Twitter followers recently, and I'm trying to cope with that.
Have I?
I think so, but let's not talk about it. It's fine. I don't know. I think so. I don't know. But so yes, Rachel killed it this year on, don't look now, because it's going to piss me off.
I won't. No, I think you're still ahead of me. You're okay.
For a little bit. When
Trevor signs, I have 400 something.
So when Trevor signs, it's done.
No, actually, yeah. My thought is, and I tell Trevor this all the time, I'm I'm gonna lose so many followers, because the only reason I have so many of these is because all these fan bases want him.
That might happen if I ever get a boyfriend too. I feel if people if I get a boyfriend, people are gonna be like, oh, it's we never had a chance, but so it's it's an experiment I want to try. I'm gonna see how many followers I lose when I announce I have a boyfriend one day, when I'm 80. So moving on. So Danny Vietti puts out this social media baseball bracket every year. It's relatively new. So I was fucked in the first round. So I'm going up against Cespedes Family Barbecue, my former colleagues at Cut 4. And you want to talk about I mean, you know how tournaments work. I'm not supposed to be going up against another one seed. Last year I did really well. I think I lost to Pitching Ninja or something. I don't know. But Vietti actually DM'd me today and said, I had you going up against or losing to Pitching Ninja in the 8th round, because Danny's my boy. And I feel he thought I was a bigger deal than I actually am. But so yeah, I'm done.
I don't know who the first person in the Sweet 16 or no, that's where I lost.
You lost in the Sweet 16.
Yes, in the first round I went against a Ben Porter. I was trying to figure out who he is.
I don't know who that is either,
because he seems nice.
But that seems a more.
It was that was I get that was him kind of tossing me a bone, Danny, and then he just was and then I'm just gonna,
you're on a high and you go up against John
off the cliff and make you go against John Boyce. So here's my thing. I told you that this was why I was confused, or at first I screenshot it to Trevor and I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, why am I losing to this dude? He's got 20,000 followers. And that's just stupid. I mean, I went from I always say I'm not an overnight success, but on Twitter, my just
it's
Twitter
pretty
presence,
overnight success.
That one is, yeah, because I literally got on last year with 30 followers and got to where I am in a year. So then, I still have like, I've got like 50,000 followers or whatever. I'm like, how am I losing to this dude? And then he was like, well, maybe he like shouted or like on some of his other, you know, like maybe on his YouTube or whatever. And I was like looking and I clicked on his other like talking baseball account. It's got like 17,000. I'm like, still, there's no way that I'm getting, and he goes, oh, because Trevor texted me first and he goes, I'm so impressed with you. He goes, the fact that you're at like 38% or something against John Boy is impressive.
Yeah, that's
like,
actually really.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? He's got 20,000 followers. I was like, this is embarrassing for me. And he didn't like, I don't know, he didn't really like say anything to that when I was like talking about his followers. And then today I saw his other account, his John Boy account, not John Boy Media.
That has like 100,000, right?
He's got like 350,000 followers on there. And I screenshot that and I was like, Trevor, you didn't tell me he has this account. Like he's got more followers than, he's got like freaking 500,000 followers. I was like, okay, I don't feel nearly as bad anymore, but except for I told
John Boy
Danny,
follow you on Twitter?
Who?
Does John Boy follow you on Twitter?
I just got followed today.
I got followed a while ago.
Yeah, congrats. So I just got followed today.
It's Trevor Plouffe, but Trevor is my boy and he loves me.
Well, I mean, Trevor Plouffe follows me, but like John Boy does, and I like he came over for Bower Bites and he was already a hot shot and I was a 30 follower Twitter account. So
you were just a young lad, little
yes.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Little baby Twitter follower.
Yeah. But I will say that it was cool to see the Mets, the Angels, and the Padres fan base who've just been and Giants, I think, coming out strong for
Giants
me.
came in hot. We wrote about how Trevor talked about the Giants fans like we're coming in hot.
But they had my back trying to help beat John Boy, but it was next year. And next year, if I go against John Boy before like the Elite Eight,
maybe y'all should physically fight. I don't know.
I will win the entire thing if that's the case.
That's fair. So mind you, I was getting ready to go sleepy sleeps last night and my phone goes off. Haven't heard from Rach all day really. And she's like, Jess, I need your help. And mind you, I like tweet with one eye open.
Yeah, it was a very like half-ass effort, but I realized that you were bitter about losing the first round. So
honestly, Rach, I was only a little bitter, but I was like I was like half asleep too, like Bible. Yeah. It had nothing to do with bitterness. Well, a little bit to do with bitterness, but I was also like, fuck yeah. If somebody's gonna win, might as well be my girl Rach. And then,
you were like, just because what was your tweet? I
really don't want to. I was gonna tweet, please like help Rach because I don't want to hear it anymore. But I did like, because I wanted you to win. It's like, hey, if I'm not going to win, the only reason I was bitter, it was like that matchup fucking sucked, dude. And I was like, that just like pissed.
That's the thing. I get it. Like, I would rather not lose in the very first round.
Yeah, it wasn't like, but you wouldn't talk about 30%. I think I got 18%. And that was after me, like, I don't know, maybe saying like I would go out with Mike 45732 on a date. And then it went up to 18%. And
well, look, I think it's still cool to even be on it. I know
was really cool. And like it started some drama because it always does, like every fucking year. And it's just like
I didn't even know what the hell it was, and I got tagged in it. And I was like, "The hell's this?" Like that's cool. How did I'm honored. I'm on it. Thanks, guys. So that was cool, but maybe like they should do a better job at matching people up.
I think that like it just felt like very forced, but here is the thing. A lot of us realize that. And of course, Jared Carabas is just like, I don't have to lift a finger or whatever. But either way, like it was cool, but like also I weirdly got upset. It's like so stupid.
You know what? The one account that I don't like, I love Jared Carabas, Kawabis. Like, yeah, Kawabis. If you're 5 years old,
which we are,
but yeah, I mean, basically
we are 5 years old.
Yeah. But I will say, like, I don't know how Asterisk Tour didn't beat him. Like, that is a high quality account.
They blocked me.
Really?
Yeah, because like obviously,
but, like they were really like they're very creative. Like for a purely baseball entertaining account.
I agree, but they blocked me because they're little bitches. I'm just gonna say it.
What'd you do?
That's a great question because I did, in fact, do something. So obviously the A's are extremely tied to the Astros because of Mike Fiers, but
I had no idea.
I know, right? And that's like no matter what I did. And I'm a huge Mike Fiers fan. I'm just going to point that out there. I loved what he did. And he's a great pitcher. He's been, employed for 10 years with secondary pitches. I love that. And so during one of the Astros A's games this past season, one of my followers, they paid a guy to do the Astro, like something with the plane. They put the plane thing. And I complained because I don't know. I don't remember what the complaint was. I honestly, I was being kind of a diva, but it turns out the Astros tour like shared all this information without giving props to who actually tweeted it out and like these photos. And I was like, that's kind of fucked up. Like maybe give the guy some publicity. Like you're just stealing this and then the Astros tour came at me. He goes, oh, he said it was fine. So it was cool. Then I retweeted and then he blocked me. I was like, well, I retweeted you to like say like what it was just dumb. And I don't like.
You want me to reach out and ask him to unblock you?
If you want, like,
you know how many people reach out to me, by the way, asking me if I could tell Trevor. And one time, and Trevor was so confused. He was like, "What is this guy paying you, Rachel?" Because for whatever reason, I got so emotionally like invested in this like guy. He went and found. If he's, I doubt he's listening to this because he's probably like, I give up on anyone like Bauer related, but. He found he was like, hey, do you think that, he goes, I said some mean stuff like in 2016 or something. He goes, I was really like just kind of a jerk. And to be honest, I did not like really know who Bauer was or like spend a second to even get to kind of do a little research to figure out who he was. But I just said something mean. I got blocked. And he goes, I've seen through other sources all this stuff that Bauer's put out. And he's like, I've become a huge Bauer fan. I think he's like one of the best at, like for the game. I like all of this stuff. He was like, I feel horrible about what I said. And I just would love to know like if there's anything I can do to get a second chance, because like I genuinely like just admire the shit out of this guy. And I was like, you know what? Like I will see. And then so I like read that, and then like an hour later, he goes and he finds this tweet that he sent to Trevor from like 2016, and he retweeted, said, "This is what I said." Like he owned it. He was like, "This was my mean tweet, and I feel horrible. Like clearly, I was just being a jerk. Like that Trevor didn't deserve it. I can understand why he blocked me, but I just want to know like if there's anything I can do. Whatever reason, like I don't know. I was just feeling emotional. I don't know, but I was like, oh my God, this guy seems like
it could have been a good gut feeling too. Yeah.
And so I went to Trevor and I was like, Trevor, I need you to like just hear me out here. And I started talking. He goes, Rachel, you know the rules. Once on the block list, always on the block list. There's no coming back. There's no second chances. It's his like rule.
Okay.
And I was like, I understand that. I said, but please just hear me out on this. And like, let me read you through like this kind of epiphany that this guy had, or this, whatever he's kind of pleading here. And I go through it. And then Trevor was just like, kind of paused for a second. He was like, no. And I almost started crying. And I was like, Trevor, like, that's really messed up. Like this guy has changed. And like, I got so emotional about it. And Trevor was like, what is he paying? Like, I don't understand this. And I'm like,
oh,
well, I
get where both of y'all are coming from.
Yeah. So he was like convinced that like, this guy Venmoed me to do it or whatever. And if that was the case, like that was some impressive acting on my part. Yeah. I mean, I should win an Oscar because that was like pure heart and emotion. And I got rejected. Like he didn't unblock him. So that's whatever.
At least and I'm like, for me, when it comes to being blocked, like I I don't care.
I don't understand the people, like, this was also something I learned in my first year of Twitter, is that there's people that take pride, like in their bios they have like blocked by,
Yeah.
and like I didn't know that was a thing. That's such an odd thing to me.
And like I think
Can't wait for someone to take pride in blocked by Rachel.
And so, but here, and I will give you some advice, because I know you were like, what did you do? Here's the thing. That's probably the only block where I'm like, I definitely probably deserve to be blocked, because I was probably just being annoying. But at the same time, every time I've been blocked by somebody, it's usually, I have no idea why. Maybe I'm annoying, but
like I got blocked by the MLB exec burner because he said we all know he's like someone who's not actually important in baseball, but like likes to pretend that he is. He's like, I'm an executive, and like, you're not. But he likes to pretend, and he's got like several thousand followers, and it's very odd to everybody how, but he like tweeted out something like 2 months ago or something. And he was like, interesting conversation with my other fellow execs. I'm like, yeah, maybe they're execs, you're not.
Right.
But
that's the big thing that trolls do.
Yeah, he's like, he also always comes at me like and subtweets me for certain things, and I'm just like, stop being so obsessed with me, but it's fine. So he said, interesting conversation having like on a group text with other execs about what upcoming free agent Trevor Bauer is going to get this off season. And then he like put like, first of all, quotes some ridiculously like laughable amount that I'm like, you either like the fact that this was the number you arrived at just shows your lack of baseball knowledge. Right. But and he goes, and so he gives his valuation, what he predicts it to be. And then he was like, so he goes, Bauer doesn't have the best representation, but his openness to 1-year contracts might help him a little. And so somebody like tagged me in it, because of course he's like subtweeting me, and he says like, yeah, Bauer doesn't have the best representation. So I just responded to it, and I was like, hey, remember that time that we made him the second highest paid starting or salary hour pitcher in MLB history with a little kissy face? And then he blocked me. Yeah. But I was excited. I was like, finally, you're done being obsessed with me, because I've literally quote tweeted him before, and I'm like, because he'll subtweet things at me, and I'm like, why are you so obsessed with me? You don't follow me. Like you're obsessed, and it's weird, but I'm honored to be blocked by him.
Exactly. And it was funny that you mentioned that, because there's this one account, and he would make so many accounts, and they were always Giants and A's related, just to poke at me. And he would talk shit. He'd be like, oh, Jessica slept with this college scout to cover college football. I covered 2 college football games, and like literally that wouldn't make my career at all. And then he kept poking at me, and then finally he resurfaces like after bugging me for years and years and years. And I had to report him a couple times because some of the things were kind of creepy. And the last one was about right when Bach Talk launched, and Bach Talk was getting like all the A's and Giants games they would say like a quick thing like, hey, Bach Talk by Jessica Kleinschmidt. And this one guy finally, like, of course I was stupid and I searched my name. I know Trevor does that. I searched my name and I found it. And this guy was like, I've been harassing her for 10 years. He didn't at me. He wrote my name. And we finally discovered this guy. And then I responded to him and I was like, what the hell? And of course, NBC got wind of it, but they were great about it. They're like, they were just telling me like, hey, like, don't like talk to him. But he goes, why don't you block this account like you blocked my other 5 accounts? I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? So because he wrote like, I would hate to talk. He was like, I hate to listen to Bach Talk, which is probably 30 minutes of Jessica talking. And I was like, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But it was just like the stupidest thing ever. And then he blocks me. But I was like, the fact that like you made all these accounts to troll me, like
that's what I'm saying. That's an obsession.
Go out with you. I won't go out with you.
Yeah, it's an obsession. That's where some of these accounts like try to act like like they think very little of us, but I'm like, for someone who thinks very little of us, you spend a whole lot of time researching us and trying to shit on us and
I
attack
wish we could get paid the rent because we spend a lot of time in their mind.
Yeah.
Rent
Yeah.
free. Do we want to move on to rule 5 now? Let's wait till next time. And the only reason why is like it's a good thing because we went off on very important subjects. I feel like it's very important for us to remind the people that like we're not always on point. And it's tough. And you know, for me personally, Instagram is just a highlight reel, so we can relax on that aspect. We are and are not very bitter about this stupid social media bracket. But it was also really fun to see us kind of all talk shit to each other. I didn't do a lot of shit talking because I felt like there was like I couldn't do anything. I was like, there's no reason to talk shit because I'm about to get whooped.
You know who I wouldn't have been like if pitching ninja, like if I had to go against him, I would just be like there's nothing mean I can say. Like I would feel like such an asshole to say anything mean to him.
He's
like
wonderful.
John Boy was like funny because I knew. Oh, and then someone was like, I can't tell if she's being serious. Oh, because I responded. I was like, you know what? Fine. If you beat me, I was like, I can't wait to watch, Bauer Outage demolish you. And everyone was like appalled. And they were like, did she really just say that? Like, that's really messed up. And I was like, one guy was like, I'm not sure, like, if you DM John Boy ahead of time and this is a joke, but if it's not, this is really messed up. I was like, hey, Jim, let's not try to take life too seriously here. Like, chill out.
Like, you were kind of like, I guess nobody wants to see where Bauer signs that.
Yeah, that one I was gonna tweet it, like, or quote tweet it, so it would be a little bigger. I know it got lost in there, but I was like, some people will see this gem. I don't want this to turn into a whole thing.
I loved how it was like
advantage of my job. But yeah,
I was like, oh, because you're subscribed to your notifications.
Are you serious? That must have been so I was annoyed at myself.
I was a little annoyed for a little bit, but only because like I was watching you talk shit. I didn't do well. That's the only reason why.
Yeah. I was annoyed at myself for the amount of tweets that came out. I feel like I go through these like waves of like there'll be a good period of several days where I just barely tweet, and then it's like I have something to say and I tweet 69 tweets in 20 minutes.
That's how Megan told me she subscribed to my tweets. I was like, don't. And she did. And I told her, I was like, but she might turn them off when like it's actually the regular season. Cause I mean, the A's haven't done anything in free agency. I don't think it's gonna.
That's the thing is I will say, like, I would subscribe to yours, except you guys almost do like play-by-play basically on Twitter, and I couldn't. That's too much.
And if I
can just watch.
If I wasn't like the main A's coverage for NBC, I think it'd be a little bit better. But because my tweets are funny, but then
no, they are. I love your tweets.
When it's A's related, it's like, okay, well, that's a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I'm glad you're subscribed to my tweet.
I do.
I'm so sorry. That must have been extra annoying yesterday because like I was legit annoyed.
Only from I'm a bitter loser.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. My bad.
Because of the matchup. I was like, I felt like was it DJ LeMahieu who went up against? Was it DJ LeMahieu? I don't remember. Somebody was up against for the AL MVP award against Mike Trout one year, and it was like they interviewed Mike Trout, the two other guys for the MVP, and obviously Mike was going to get it, and it was like I felt like I wasn't even excited to be a part of it because I was just like I don't
yeah, they should. You know what? Honestly, they should have put me in that position for the first round because it's like I was on the first round. I was just like, this is so cool. Like I didn't even know what this thing is. It's apparently like this annual thing that they do, and like to make it on this thing and be honored in just like the select few that are on the bracket. Like this is amazing. Then I got a little ahead of myself when my first round I beat it. and it was like not super close. And I was like, then the competitive Rachel came out, and I was like,
and that's
all right.
it makes you crazy, right?
Yeah, and I was like, now like I don't lose well, so John Boy, it's going down, and then I just get demolished. Like you should have just like been like, Rachel, this is your first year. Congrats on making the bracket. We'll knock you out first round, and
that's where I was, because I was like, I felt like I could have. I'm finally established myself in this industry, and it was whatever. And I will say, I did get a couple tweets. This is going to piss me off, but people were saying that there was a lack of women of color represented on this thing. I am a woman of color, and I'm just going to put that out there. I'm half Filipino, and I want people to know that. It just pisses me off because I know people look at me and think I'm a basic white girl, but I am half Asian. So let's remember that.
Let's remember the fact that there are any females on there is like, good job. Like that we're a minority too.
Yeah, but don't, like, I mean, I was only annoyed because like, don't say there is no women of color when there actually is. So
it's fair.
Yeah. This was fun. It's very therapeutic too. I love when you remind me that like, you're not always on it, because it makes me feel good.
Anytime. Gladly.
We'll be back next week. Maybe we can actually go over the Rule 5. Obviously that's evergreen, so that's always good. We'll be back next time, and I can actually, I'm going to be recording from Reno, so maybe there's snow and stuff there. You can say hi to Mom. Jan would love to see you.
Yay!
It would be wonderful. All right, we'll see you next time. Love you, babe.
Yep, love you. Cheers.